Hello students, welcome to Dr. B.R. Ambedkar Open University. Today I am going to teach you the nursery management and plant propagation. In the cultivation of mulberry plants, the major role is nursery management and also the plant propagation. That means the nursery has to be well maintained, and also the plant propagation, that means multiplication of mulberry plant or reproducing of mulberry plants has to be taken care. So today we are going to discuss the science of plant propagation. This propagation is the process of creating new plants from a variety of sources, like through seeds, through cuttings, through other plant parts. We are creating another plant. That means we are introducing a new plant. So there are two types of propagations, sexual and sexual. The sexual is through the seeds. This will ensure the genetic diversity. That means there will be genetically different plant variety will be coming out if we use sexual propagation. Asexual propagation or vegetative propagation, it is the most commonly used type of the propagation, which is done through the vegetative parts like stem, leaves and buds. So we see a term called totipotency. This totipotency is a ability of a single plant to regenerate. It is an ability to regenerate a plant through a single cell. The whole new organisms can be created and can be containing all the genetic informations of the parent. So this term is called as a totipotency. That means the ability of creating or generating a whole new plant or a new organisms with a single cell is called as a totipotency. If we define modern nursery, that means the nursery is a place where all the young plants are being maintained and managed. If we see during favorable condition, they are very strong, and which strong enough for the field transplantation as well. If we see the primary objective, that means the primary cause of this modern nursery, it is to take care of the delicate and very delicate seedlings. So it has to be having an efficient amount of specialized propagation material has to be taken care of, and it will be helping in maintaining a high health and also phytosanitary standards. In this modern nurseries, here we are trying to make sure of the high yielding. For a high yielding, we are raising a young plants which are healthy, which are nutritive and which are fresh. Next we have, for a nursery, first we have to make sure about the location. That means the ideal site has to be taken care of, and the ideal site has to be chosen properly. And we have an hydrology. That means there should be an abundant of water supply without any water clogging problem, and the draining of the water has to be also taken care of. Then we have a topography. What is topography? Is the land that we are choosing has to be a slightly elevated or a flat line has to be chosen for the nursery sites. Why? Because highly elevated lands doesn't carry water much. That means it doesn't have a water holding capacity much. During the dry seasons, it might have a water holding capacity in the soil, but this land has to be having a natural drainage system, and also because of which we can avoid a waterlogging system. How the infrastructure of the nursery bed should be? The nursery bed is a basic unit of a plant raising. These are typically, they are 1 meter wide, and it is easy for a manual weeding as well, and also for the irrigation of both the sites. These beds has to be raised beds, they have to be flat beds, and they can also be a sunken beds. There are 3 types of beds that are present: raised beds, flat beds and sunken beds. These raised beds are used in the rainy season. This will improve the drainage system, this will improve the drainage process. And if we see the flat beds, it will be used for a hardy pass. That means during the lower rainfall season, this flat beds are used. In sunken beds, these sunken beds are used in an arid zones to conserve the moisture. To maintain the moisture, these sunken beds are useful. So if we see the role of propagation of media, this medium is a substrate used for the germinating of the seeds. That means it is used this propagation of this media, the role of this propagation media is to ensure the germinating of the seeds and also the root cuttings as well. It must provide physical support also, and also it must give an aeration support, and also it must give a mechanical support. So it should be having a sufficient firm to hold the cuttings, and it should be having a high water holding capacity, and this has to be very porous. It will be helpful, the porosity will be helpful for the exchange of the oxygen or the any gases. It should be free from any pathogens and weed cheats, because these pathogens can cause diseases, and these weeds can eat away all the nutrients that has to be taken by a mulberry plant. Instead of the mulberry plants, if the weeds have been grown, these weeds can be taken care of. Then we see physiochemical properties. What are the physiochemical properties? We see bulk density. The properties are bulk density, pH level, porosity, and CEC. CEC is nothing but cation exchange capacity. For a until now we have seen the physiological, the physical characters, that means the location, the soil, the water holding capacity, and all of it. Now we are seeing the bulk density, we are seeing the physiological and also a chemical properties that are required. We are seeing the bulk density. The ideal state, it has to be of 0.5 to 1 gram, and it must ensure a plot, it should not be heavy, but it should offer the support. Then the pH level has to be 5.5 to 6.5, and this is an optimal range for nutrient availability and also for the root health, because if it is too low, if the pH value is too low, we can add lime to it, and if the pH value is too high, gypsum also can help it. If you see the porosity, that means the exchange of the oxygen, that means air, it will balance between the air filled pore spaces or the water storage. The pores which are present will be helping for the water storage capacity, or the air will be filled in it. Then we have CEC. CEC is nothing but cation exchange capacity. Cation exchange capacity is for the nutrient retention. So this has to be very high for the good nutrient values. If you see, the soil will be containing the organic components and also the inorganic components as well. In organic components, we see the soil, that means a red soil is much preferred. That means if the mulberry plant is cultivated in the red soil, the specificity of the soil is red soil, and also it should have a sand and also the silt river sand and also the silt particles has to be present, because of which what happens, the exchange of the water can be happen, and the water holding capacity is good in the silt, and sand also doesn't make the plant or the root to be moist. If you see the river sand, it is particle size, that means 0.05 mm to 2.0 mm. It is increase. This river sand will increase the drainage system, and also it will prevent from mixing or from the compacting. If you see the vermiculite, in the industrial components, it is used to increase aeration. This perlite will be helpful for the increase of the aeration process, and if we use a vermiculite, it will be helpful for the water retention. Then we see the organic components. Organic components here is farmyard manure. That means a farmyard manure is a mixture of an animal dung and also bedding materials which is used. It is a well decomposed. It should be well decomposed before the use of it. So it provides a slow release of nutrients. This nutrients can be a macronutrients or it can be a micronutrients as well. This will improve the biological activity of the medium, and it will, because of which what happens, the buffer capacity will be increasing. What is the buffer capacity? Here is the resistance to the pH. As it changes, resistance to the pH value changes if the buffer capacity will be increased. If you see the potting mix, that means 2% of soil has been taken, 1% of 2:1:1 ratio. That means 2% of soil, 1 of sand, and farmyard manure is of 1. So this is a standard ratio. If you are taking 20% of sand, 20% of farmyard manure, and the or the 60% of the soil. If this is a standard ratio has to be taken care for the nursery species like mulberry. We have asexual propagation. Asexual propagation, it is also called as a vegetative propagation. It is done through any vegetative parts like stem, leaves and roots. Here this vegetative propagation, it utilizes the mitotic division of the cells to regenerate the tissue. It requires a mitotic division to be happening for the regeneration of the tissue. It is preferred for plants that it do not produce viable seeds, rather it should be having a long juvenile period for the seeds, and it must maintain specific cultivar traits. That means it has to be a true type of the propagation. Then the key techniques here are, there are 4 types of techniques that we use in an asexual propagation, that is cutting, stem cut or root cut or leaf cut. Second one is a layering. It is a ground layering or else an air layering. Then we have a grafting, which is a whip grafting or else a cleft grafting. Then we have a budding, which can be a T type of a budding or a patch budding. If we see the propagation, if it is through the layering is a method where adventitious roots are induced to form one stem while it is still attached to the parent plant. That means here in the layering, what happens, the adventitious roots are induced, it is partially in the soil and the partial is above the aeration. What happens in this layering process is, it will be reduced, the water stress will be lesser in the layering, and also the water, the continuous nutrient supply will be present from the parent plant itself. So the advantage of attachment is, unlike cutting, the layer continues, unlike cutting, it doesn't get, in the cutting process it doesn't get nutrients from the parent plants, but in the layering what happens is, in this layering the layering plant will be continuously being fed by the parent plant. That means the water stress will be lesser comparatively, and also the nutrient value will be higher in the layering. Then if you see, there are 2 types of layering, there are 3 types, there are 4 types of the layering. First one is a simple layering. Simple layering, it is a low growing branch, it is bent on the ground. So this portion of the branch is covered with soil, leaving the tip to be exposed. That means only the root part is partially adapted in the soil, and the aerial part is above the ground itself. So here what happens, if the injury is been caused, a tongue or a ring of bark is often removed to encourage callus and the root formation. To encourage the callus formation and also for the root formation, the tongue will be removed. If you see the pegging, a U-shaped wire or a heavy stone holds the branch in the soil. Then we have a serpentine layering. This is similar to simple layering, but it is used for plants with long and flexible trailing stems. This stem is alternatively buried and also exposed at several points. At its length also it can be exposed at several points. What happens, this buried section will be developed the roots, and the exposed section will develop the shoots. That means if the root is the buried part will be in the soil. As the buried part is in the soil, it will be developing the root system, and the aerial system which is present above the soil, it will be giving the shoot system. So it will be helpful for the exposed part will be helpful for the production of the developmental of the shoot. So one long branch can yield multiple new plants also. If we see in the air layering, also it is called as a gooty layering. Here in this gooty layering, what happens is, this will use trees for a rigid branch cannot be bent to the ground. As we are using a strong plant, it cannot be bent, it cannot be partially buried in the soil. But here we are taking a 2 to 3 centimeters of a ring bark, and this ring bark has been removed, and under a moist sphagnum mosses, as we can see, it has been wrapped with the sphagnum mosses, and this has to be wrapped around the wound, and the polythene film is used to wrap. As we are putting the sphagnum mosses, it has to be covered with the polythene film to retain the moisture. As the root appears, the root will be appearing after 4 to 8 weeks. This is about the air layering or else a gooty layering. Next we have a stool layering. Here in this, what happens is, the parent plant is cut back to the ground. this parent plant will be cut back to the ground level during the dormant season. What happens, the shoot emerges from the stool and or the stump, and the soil is molded around the base of the new shoot. Etiolation, that means in the absence of the light, what happens at the base, the shoot encourages into the root system, and this is commonly used for the apple rootstock system. Then we see the grafting. The grafting is nothing but grafting is joining the two plant parts so that they can grow as a single plant. Here in the grafting, what happens, we are taking two plant parts and we are making it as a single plant part. Here if we see, the upper part is called as a cycon, the lower part is called as a stalk. The lower part is called as a root stalk or else a root stalk. This is where the just above the soil line we see the graft union, that means where the cycon, where the cycon and the stalk has been united and tied. This is the graft union. This is a cycon. The cycon is an upper part that becomes a shoot system, and this root stalk, it is a lower part which will be forming in the root system. If we see the physiology of a graft success, the success of graft will be dependent on the alignment of cambium. If the cambium is arranged properly, that means the success rate would be high between the stalk and the cycon. That means the cycon and the stalk has to be well properly arranged in the middle portion. If we look at the middle portion, this middle portion will be helping for the cambium formation, and also the rate of success will be completely dependent upon the callus formation. If we see, first one is a callus formation, the second is a wound healing capacity, and the third one is a vascular connection. Callus formation. In this callus formation, the important cells that we use is a parenchymatic cells. This will form the cambium. As this is forming the cambium, this will divide rapidly. This will divide continuously, and it gives a good mechanical support. And the gap between the cycon, if you see here, the gap between the cycon and the stalk will be regenerated, because here the parenchymatic cells are dividing continuously, and that gap will be filled by the parenchymatous cell. Here the second one is a wound healing capacity. A necrotic layer is been formed, and it is subsequently replaced by the new vascular tissue. That means as we are attaching two different plants into a single plant, there will be a wound healing capacity also. That means the necrotic layer will be replaced with a vascular tissue. Here if we look into the vascular connection, vascular system is nothing but the xylem and the phloem. The xylem, which will be helpful for the supply of the food materials, and the phloem, which will be helpful in the supply of the water substances. Here if you see, the new vascular system has been developed. In this new vascular system has been developed, that means new xylem and the new phloem has been differentiated, allowing the water supply and also the nutrient flow. And then we see the cleft and the tongue. There are different types of grafting that are present. First one is a cleft grafting, and the second one is a whip grafting is also present. First one is a cleft grafting. This cleft grafting is used for top working or else changing of the variety of the tree. If you wanted to change the variety of the tree, this cleft grafting is being used. The cycon is the edge shaped, and it is inserted into the split in the stalk. Then we see a tongue or a whip grafting. This is called as a tongue grafting or else as a whipped grafting. What happens in this tongue or the whipped grafting is, it is used when cycon and the stalk are equally diameter. If the cycon diameter and the whipped and the rootstock diameter is same, then this tongue or the whip grafting is being used. As this, the interlocking will be happening, and these tongues will provide more surface area for the cambium contact as well. If you see in the vegetative propagation, that is through propagation through budding, this budding is a form of grafting where single bud is enough. That means the cycon is inserted into the stalk. That means in the budding process, what happens, the cycon will be inserted into the stalk and the complete plant will be grown. Here it requires an active sap flow. That means the bark must be a slipper. As this degree note for it is, budding is best performed when the root stalk is 1 to 2 years old, and the cycon bud also has to be mentioned, but mature, and it has to be very dormant. That means here in the propagation of the budding, we are making sure and we are ensuring it has been grown from a single bud. As it is grown from a single bud, that means that bud has to be very well matured and it has to be developed in a proper way. Then we have a shield budding or else a T budding. That means it is a T shaped incision is made in the stalk bag, and a shield shaped piece of cycon containing a bud is inserted under a bark flip. That means a vertical cut. We have a particular specific cuttings that has to be made. The vertical cutting has to be around 2 to 5 centimeters long, and the horizontal cutting, that is the crosses the top of the vertical cut. And if you see the incision, this bud shield is pushed down and into the pocket. If this bud shield will be pushed down into the pocket, this is about the T budding. Next we have a patch and flute budding. This patch budding and also the flute budding. If you look at the patch budding, it is used for the thick barked species like walnuts, like pecans. It is a rectangular patch. You can see here in the picture, it is a rectangular patch that is present, but it is replaced and it is removed by an identical patch that is containing a bud. So this is called as a patch budding. That means we are cutting it into a rectangular shape and it is been replaced by a identical patch containing a bud. Then we have a flute budding. This is a complete ring bark. So in this flute budding, it is a complete ring of a bark is removed from the stalk, but it doesn't meet at the back. That means it doesn't meet like a flute. The cycon is ring, the cycon will be in a ring shape and it will be perfectly fitting in. And the maintenance and aftercare. If you see vegetative propagation, sexual propagation, asexual propagation and the sexual propagation, it is done through seeds and also through the vegetative parts. But after the reproduction process has been done, after the primary stage, aftercare is also very important, and also the maintenance of the plant or the seedling is very important. Here the first thing is an irrigation process. In this is very frequent and it is light watering. This irrigation has to be very frequent and it has to be light watering and misting. That means light watering is nothing but it has to be misting, and it has to be prevent media desiccation, and also it should avoid overhead watering for fungal control. That means irrigation system has to be well developed. That means there should be no water clogging process problems, because if the water has been clogged, the rate of diseases can be high. The fungal rate of the fungal diseases can be higher in rate. Then we have a weeding. This is a manual weeding and it is critical as weeds compare for limited nutrients in a small volume of a pot or a bed. See, as we are creating a bed, nursery bed, that means we are giving all the nutrients, we are taking the physiochemical care is been taken care from the weeding. As it is been taken care, what is happening is this is limited. If the weeds have been grown higher rate than the mulberry, what happens is the weeds will be taking away all the nutrients and the mulberry will be getting lesser nutrients comparatively. So the weeding process, the weeding monitoring has to be taken care and has to be under managed. Then hardening, gradual exposure of saplings to field conditions like sun, wind, 2 to 4 weeks before the final transplantation. That means hardening is nothing but this has to be exposed for 2 to 4 weeks before the young sapling or the seedling, before the young sapling has been placed in the final transplantation. This has to be exposed to the wind and also it has to be exposed to the sun, because if it is not been exposed to the sun or the wind, what happens, it won't be inhabiting or it won't be inheriting this condition if it is finally placed in the final transplantation. We have to also take care of a plant health management. Here the plant health management is nothing but we have to make sure the plant is disease free. That means the plant is fungally diseased, fungal diseases like which causes the stem rot and also the soil level preventing by using a sterilized mediums. If you see fungal diseases which will be causing a stem rot is nothing but the stems will not be capable and it won't be healthy. So because of which what happens, it has to be prevented by sterilizing the media before, after the pruning or before the pruning. You have to make sure the tools that you are using for the pruning has to be cleansed with the alcohol, with the ethyl alcohol for making sure and for the prevention of the contamination. We see sucking pests. Aphids, triumphs and mites can transmit viruses. Regular spotting is required. That means sucking pests are nothing but, here we see mites as an example. These mites are very dangerous. They might transfer the diseases or the viruses to the plant, which will affect the cultivation and also which will affect the plant growth and the development. The sanitation has to be taken care of properly. Sterilization is a key role for the management of the health. Sterilizing pruning tools with 70% alcohol has to be prevented. Cross contamination, to prevent the cross contamination. That means one plant, if the one plant is diseased and the other is healthy, if you are using one tool of the diseased plant to the healthier plant, the healthier plant might get contaminated and it might get affected. So you have to make sure that tools that you are using for the pruning or for any media purposes, this has to be properly sanitized with 70% of an alcohol. And comparison of the asexual methods, that we have 4 layers, that is cutting, layering and grafting. The success rate of cutting is medium. The ease of use is very high. It is best for hardy shrubs and also it is good for mulberry. If you see layering is the most common and it is having a economically high importance, and the success rate is also very high for the layering process, and it is medium. The ease of use is medium, and it is best for difficult to root species. And if you see grafting, the success rate is high and the medium ease to use is low. That means grafting has to be done under an experts, that means under a good surveillance. This grafting process has to be done. This is best for fruit trees and also for changing the varieties. This grafting varieties is being done. Grafting, if you wanted to combine two different varieties in a one, you want two desired characters in a one plant, this grafting process will be very helpful. We see budding, the success rate of budding is very high, and also the ease of use is also medium. You see this budding in roses, in specialized fruit saplings also. So this is all about the nursery management, also the plant propagation. As we all know, in conclusion, I would like to conclude that the cultivation of the mulberry is very important, as it is a sole source of the sericulture. That means this sericulture is completely dependent on the mulberry plant, not only on the silkworms, not on the cocoon. If this mulberry plant and also the management of the nursery will directly reflect the production and also the silk quality. If the nursery and if the plant mulberry propagation is well managed and well developed, that means the silk industry will be growing rapidly, and the quality, the yield, the success rate of the sericulture is completely dependent upon the plant mulberry propagation and also the nursery management. Thank you everyone.